business. All right. Y'all didn't hear me singing, did y'all? Good. So as I was saying, I'm going to start this speech off with a quote from Edwin Burke. He said, "Evil only prevails when good men do nothing." I'm going to change it a little bit. Evil only prevails when good men and women do nothing. I want that to stay in your head. Evil only prevails when we do nothing. As I was preparing what I want to talk about, I realized that Juneteenth ties directly into the Civil War. You may have been taught that the Civil War was not fought over slavery. You may have been taught that the Civil War was fought over states' rights. And I'm going to ask you, what were those states' rights? Those states' rights were the right to have slaves. That's what the Civil War was fought over, slavery. Okay? That ties directly into Juneteenth. All right? I'm going to give you something. I can't go for these. I'm going to talk about during the Civil War, over 180,000 African American men fought and labored in some capacity in the Civil War. I have this hot uniform on, not because I like to walk around with wool and look cool, but the unit I'm portraying is a unit out of Illinois called the 29th USCT, which stands for United States Colored Troops. Illinois had their own Civil War unit. This unit that I'm portraying actually was present the day that Lee surrendered in Appomattox. So to talk about Juneteenth, I have to talk about the Civil War. I have to talk about why they all go hand in hand. As you know, in Juneteenth, that there were brothers and sisters who remained slaves 2 years after the Emancipation Proclamation was signed. They were in captive 2 years. This slavery was ended due to the fact of brothers and sisters, 180,000 African American men fought in the cause in the Civil War. Abraham Lincoln allowed the African Americans to join the Civil War to help derail the South of their plan to take over the world. So I'm gonna give you some other interesting facts. Everyone heard of PTSD, correct? Everyone heard of that. Post-traumatic stress disorder. Well, it is my opinion that some of us today are still we're still living that. We have never gotten over the grips of the effects of slavery. It has vexed our communities and our society for a very long time. We're still living the way we were almost back in 1864. We have not changed our mindsets from the role of being free, which is what Juneteenth was about, to today. One thing we often do is we look at history as a way to learn, but we don't often learn from the history. We quote it, we talk about it, and then we say, okay, that was great. Let's go on. So today, when I was asked to speak, I didn't have anything to talk about. I didn't want to get up here and tell you about all the things you can Google. I didn't want to tell you about, okay, President Lincoln signed the Emancipation Proclamation January the 1st, 1862. I didn't want to tell you that over 250,000 brothers and sisters remained slaves in Galveston, in Texas, were slaves in Texas prior to this. Over 250,000 were still slavery after the Emancipation Proclamation. I didn't want to bore you with a bunch of dates and times of things that went on. I didn't want to sit up here and try to have you memorize the whole Articles of Freedom Act. All these things I could have told you, and I didn't. And I struggled with preparing something to say. And so you may say, well, what did you come up with? That's a good question. I want to give you some facts. One fact, did you guys know that 12 of our sitting presidents owned slaves? A lot of us didn't know that. Presidents of the United States owned slaves. In fact, the very first president, and don't take my word, Google it, research it. The very first president, George Washington himself, had over 300 slaves. There's another president that jumps out on the books, the 10th president of the United States. His name was John Taylor. He owned 70 slaves while he was in office. So what does that tell you? From the beginning and the foundation of America, black people have had an uphill battle of freedom and equality. That's a part of that PTSD I talked about. We have struggled throughout our entire existence in America. Have we gotten better? Yes. Have things turned to the right? Yes. But there's some parts that we have not addressed. And it's playing out today. In many cases, some of our brothers and sisters that were slaves over 300 years ago, in many cases, we are still playing out that slave mentality today. We're still taking on the role of being a slave and have not taken on the role of being free. In many cases, you tend to mimic your parent. And they say, you just like your daddy, or you just like your mother. A lot of us tend to mimic the harsh treatment that we received 300 years ago. And it shows. Instead of us loving one another, we're so quick to fight. We're so quick to shoot. We're so quick to cuss and beat up, tell somebody off, lose our mind on folks. We have not gotten rid of that mentality of slavery. This is the way the masters treated us, and so we then turn around and inflict that same harsh treatment to our other brothers and sisters. That mentality is a part of that PTSD we need to break. What happened on June 19th in Galveston, Texas, General Gordon came there and told them brothers and sisters that they were free. It is said that some of them ripped off their clothes, slave clothes, and ran off the plantation. It is said others didn't believe it. They were afraid to leave. So what that says is the slave masters had convinced them, even though you free, their minds had said, are we really free? What happens if I go too far? Will I be beat? Will I be whipped? It's a condition of the mind. We have to begin to change how we see each other and how we think about each other. That's when the spirit of Juneteenth comes into effect. That freedom, that document signed, which was called General Order Number 3. It was a document that was given, and it read that you are here and forever free. And so, as I was preparing this, I said I didn't know what I wanted to talk about, and I didn't know what I wanted to say. So I came up with a question, and I want everybody to answer this question to themselves and for themselves. What does Juneteenth mean to you? What does Juneteenth mean to you? For some of you, it means freedom. It means celebration. It means we've made it from where we were. For others, it means, hey, I ain't got to go to work on Monday. It's a barbecue in the park. For others, I don't really care what it means. I just know they come around on Juneteenth, we hang out, we kick it, we eat, we drink strawberry Kool-Aid, and we go about our every day. What does Juneteenth mean to you? That's the important question. That's what I want each and everybody to kind of reflect on. If you don't remember anything I said, remember, what does Juneteenth mean to you? Not what it means to me as a historian, not what it means to Tina as an organ. What does it mean to yourself? Why is it important? That is what I thought of, what I want to say. In closing, this is an election year. The mayor and the police chief can only do so much. Everyone is looking towards the government to solve all our problems. They want more laws. They want more rules. We want more punishment. Some of these measures, they do work. But you got to admit, if you're over 35 or 40 years old, you have to admit some of these problems we've created for ourselves. Some of these situations we've caused ourselves. As I say, being pro-black does not mean you are anti-white. If you understand history, the Underground Railroad would not have taken place if there were not a few good men and women that helped them out. The quote I said, evil only prevails when good people do nothing. The Underground Railroad wouldn't have come place. As proud black men and women, I'm going to leave you with a few tools that I think we can do that'll help us. We must, one, begin to educate our children about our history. Two, we must begin to police our own children, our own families, so that the police don't have to do it. Three, we must begin to share our abundance of knowledge and our resources with one another. We must open our hearts and our minds and forgive each other for petty offenses. We fly off the handle so quick today over things that's not really important. There's brothers and sisters who haven't spoke to each other in 10 years over some silly. There's daughter and moms who haven't spoken to each other over some petty offense. We must begin to forgive one another over petty offenses. Five, we must start to show love towards one another. And six, we must pray to God to heal our land. 2 Corinthians, and all you church-going people are going to finish this before I finish it. 2 Corinthians 7:14. If my people who are called by my name will humble themselves and pray and seek my face and turn from their wicked ways, then will I hear from heaven, and I will forgive their sins, and I will heal their land. I read that scripture because that's all we do is read it. Now I'm going to tell you the action part behind it, and if we apply it, it works. There was 4 things that God asked us to do. Humble ourselves, pray, seek his face, and turn from our wicked ways. And there was 3 things he said he will do. I will hear from heaven, I will forgive their sins, and I will heal their land. Ladies and gentlemen, again, I ask you, what does Juneteenth mean to you?